Paul, who, according to the media, has been anti-Israel, has somehow changed a position in a meeting that Dr. Paul had with some evangelical leaders in Texas recently. And apparently the question came up to Dr. Paul, if Israel decided that Jerusalem would become its capital, and if he was in fact elected president, would he sign an executive order to build or move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem? And Dr. Paul said that he would respect Israel's decision and determination as to what their capital was. And it's interesting, the media has taken this as being, a switch, as far as Dr. Paul's position. But Dr. Paul, I think, explained it best, which is what the media did not include, was that it would be the same as if we were to turn around and allow another country to come in and say, oh, by the way, we're going to build our embassy in New York City because we don't recognize Washington, that it's a sovereign nation and Israel has the right to determine what their capital would be. Why do you think the media and even some of the establishment have tried to paint Dr. Paul as being anti-Israel? It seems to me that everything he said so far that I've been able to find is that he respects the sovereignty of Israel.
Well, Dr. Paul respects the sovereignty of all states. I think that's part of the problem for the establishment, political establishment and the media. Dr. Paul's view is that the Israelis can decide to do whatever they think is in their nation's interests, and so can we. What Dr. Paul has objected to, and indeed I think most Americans, if it were explained, would object to the same thing, is the notion that the United States should unconditionally support whatever the current government of Israel wants to do in terms of dragging us in potentially to a conflict with Iran. We don't think that the United States should unconditionally support any other country, whether it's Great Britain, Australia, Canada, Israel, Germany. It doesn't make any difference. We should always look carefully at what these countries want to do, especially if they want us to cooperate with them and collaborate with them. If they want us to be their partners, we should examine carefully what it is they want us to do, because these kinds of decisions are enormously important to the health of the American economy and our long-term national security interests. We do not wish to become involved in any more wars or conflicts that, frankly, are antithetical to our national interests. And that's exactly what our intervention in Iraq, and I would argue the intervention in Afghanistan as a result of this thing we call mission change or mission creep, ultimately became.
Well, we're heading on to our next commercial. When we come back, I will ask you what the comparison, in your opinion, and possibly Dr. Paul's, is between our support and paying off of Pakistan at the same time. We'll be right back. You're listening to Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair.
When the food collapse happens, if trucks stop delivering food to supermarket shelves tomorrow, what will you do? How well is your family prepared for a food crisis? How long will you survive? Getting a biodome which produces food for you and your family year-round, even in the dead of winter, is easy, cheap, and extremely liberating. Find out how in an all-new webinar at domerevolution.com. Biodome expert Kasper Postavsky shows you the 3 actions you must start taking right now to start preparing your family for food shortages and survive the economic collapse. How to quickly and easily build your own geodesic biodome. DomeRevolution.com. You'll find out how to use aquaponics to literally have an automated food supply which grows you food year-round. How to grow extremely nutrient-dense food and use the secrets of biodynamics to restore completely dead soil. Get prepared. Watch the Biodome webinar. Go to DomeRevolution.com and sign up now.
American Masters Painting, a family-owned and operated business beautifying homes in Northern Virginia for over 30 years. American Masters craftsmen serve all of your painting, staining, and wood refinishing needs. American Masters not only guarantees to deliver satisfying results, they also promise a positive, rewarding, and personalized experience to your complete satisfaction. American Masters Painting is recognized for its flawless expertise in all custom interior and exterior projects. For a free and timely estimate, contact American Masters Painting toll-free at 888-760-7760 or visit AmericanMastersPainting.com. And remember, when you're thinking American Masters Painting, you're thinking one family serving another, one project at a time. American Masters Painting is a proud sponsor of Through the Mirror with Larry Sinclair on the Rents Radio Network.
You're listening to the Rents Radio Network, coast to coast on the Galaxy 19 KU band satellite, nationwide and worldwide on the internet, and of course, on rents.com.
If you're taking 1, 2, 5, or more nutritional supplements, please stop. Simplify your supplementation with Bio Superfood, the most advanced nutritional whole food supplement you can buy. Men, women, children, even Olympic athletes the world over have discovered Bio Superfood from BioAge.com. And now take just one nutritional supplement instead of many. The Bio Superfood formulas are whole food products composed with 4 of the most nutrient-dense algae found on Earth. Bio Superfood for the brain helps with focus, memory, clarity, and mood. If you can increase brain health, the rest of the body is a no-brainer. Bio Superfood has 0 toxicity and is safe for you and your family. Learn more and order your Bio Superfood formulas at BioAge.com, spelled BIOAGE.com, BioAge.com, or call 877-288-9116. That's 877-288-9116. BioAge, the age of advanced organics.
Scientists in England have succeeded in stabilizing the time-honored substance in garlic that destroys harmful bacteria, viruses, molds, yeast, and fungus. This all-natural microbe killer is called Allicin C, and it's now available to you in 100% vegetarian capsules only on the New Earth page at rents.com. This powerful broad-spectrum antimicrobial agent is harmless to friendly bacteria and has been concentrated to equal an astonishing 35 cloves of garlic in each vegetarian capsule. Think about it. The antibacterial, antiviral strength of 35 odorless cloves of garlic in just one capsule. Allicin C is so effective it even destroys superbug MRSA in test after test. Allicin C is truly an incredible advance in natural medicine, and with the threats of bacterial and viral diseases and pandemics growing, no home should be without it. Learn more and order Allicin C on the New Earth page at rents.com.
All right, we're back. We're talking with retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor, spokesman for Veterans for Ron Paul. And Colonel Macgregor, before we went to commercial, I was going to ask you, when you said that Dr. Paul does not believe that the United States should just unconditionally support any country, would you say that the recent turmoil in Egypt, would you say that the constant conflict with Pakistan would be good examples of what happens when we continue to give money and unconditionally support a country only to have it come back and bite us?
Well, I think Dr. Paul, whose many years of service on the Hill, has learned that our transfer of hundreds of billions of dollars over decades to many countries in the world, Latin America, Africa, North Africa, the Middle East, Southwest Asia, has really not change things in many cases for the better. There's an old expression that foreign aid consists of American taxpayers who don't have a lot of money giving their money to people in foreign countries who already have a lot of money. In other words, the money has a bad habit of ending up in the wrong pockets and then being squandered on bad projects that don't produce the promised results. Pakistan is a particularly troubling example. because it's yet another artificial state that is a legacy of British imperialism that frankly is tearing itself apart. That society is in meltdown. It's in a state of almost constant civil strife. And the only institution which holds the place together is the Pakistani military, which historically has been a very professional and competent organization, virtually a replica of the original British Indian Army, that is now being modernized and continues to hold the country together. I think he would say that under the circumstances, the real question is how much longer can that be achieved? And that should be a question on everyone's mind, given the fact that they have nuclear weapons. In the case of Egypt, it's even more glaring, I would say, because we have been essentially bribing the elite in that country to control the place in order to maintain peace on Israel's western border. That's now over because that elite is gone. And it doesn't make a great deal of sense to pour billions of dollars into a government that is ultimately going to be anti-Western, anti-American, and anti-Israeli. So I think if Dr. Paul were President of the United States and he had to look at these things, I think the foreign aid would certainly be dramatically cut, if not eliminated.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in your heart that the Republican Party is definitely making a huge mistake by trying to marginalize Dr. Paul or even the support that Dr. Paul has? And I, just speaking from personal experience here in the state of Florida, Dr. Paul has a very large support base here.
Well, Larry, here's some good news. The good news is that Dr. Paul's economic arguments are winning over more and more people on the right, and I would even argue in some cases on the left. Dr. Paul's rational explanation for the debt, this crushing debt, and its terrible impact on our economy, and his warning that we are not going to escape responsibility for this debt, that we are heading, frankly, as Senator Thomas Coburn from Oklahoma has pointed out, towards default, much like Greece, Spain, Portugal, and the Eurozone. He's been warning us about these things for years. This has found its way into the Republican Party, and if you listen to Santorum and Gingrich, both of them largely adopted Ron Paul's view of economics, the criticality of dramatically reducing federal spending, making substantial cuts in the size of the federal government, and going back to a nation that cultivates self-reliance, independence, and bottom-up decision-making and action. Mr. Romney doesn't support that because Mr. Romney and Mr. Obama are only marginally different from each other. They're very close because they're products of this sort of bipartisan elite that rules in Washington and Wall Street. These are people that see the world in very different terms from you and me. They like the large and powerful federal government because of its capacity to intervene overseas and intrude in our lives here at home. They're comfortable engineering socially American society, how people live, where they live, what they think, what they learn in school. So the problem is that I think this may turn out to be the last hurrah for all of these people because, as I said before, after this election is over, as we move into 2013 and 2014, as Dr. Paul has warned, the economic crisis for fiscal reasons is going to become very, very acute. We won't be able to provide people with the free services on the scale we have in the past. We're not going to be able to subsidize this bloated military establishment. We will have to cut back and withdraw much of our military power from our overseas commitments. These things are going to happen. It doesn't make any difference who is elected. But when they happen, our standard of living here in the United States is going to drop, and it's going to precipitate a serious convulsive crisis.
A lot of people are saying that. The problem is it seems like the media outlets that should be reporting facts, or at least giving the American people the information, are determined to freeze this argument out. Look, Santorum, Gingrich, they've adopted the same economic arguments as Dr. Paul, but recently I reported, even before it happened, that Santorum was already negotiating with the GOP to have a graceful surrender to the Romney camp. What is it? Look, 6 days later, exactly what I reported was took place. You know, and Romney announces within an hour